What's going on, guys, and welcome back. We got a couple special guests that probably don't need any introduction, but I'll let them kind of say who they are for those who may not know, if that is any of you out there. But we're going to talk some Clockwork Knight and Cyber Dragons today, so if one of you wants to say hi first, then we'll keep moving.
Go ahead, James.
I guess I'll start. Hi, I'm James, also known as Hakunamydata on YouTube. I provide some data-related Yu-Gi-Oh content, but also Cyber Dragon stuff. So happy to be here, and thanks for having us.
No, what's good, guys? My name is Yacine. Just like James, I also love Cyber Dragons, and I don't make like statistic videos or anything, but I do make like combos, deck profile, whatever else I could do that isn't what James is doing, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Gameplay on any competitive deck ever.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, I've wanted to get this group together, I guess, because I feel like in the YouTube spectrum, we're probably like the three Cyber Dragon guys, like at least up there when people go to look at it. And Clockwork Knight has been officially released, yeah, basically now in the Battles of Legends set. So I thought we could talk about it. For those who don't know, it boosts all your machines by 500, reduces your opponent, so it's a 1,000-point swing, turns everything on the field to machines, and can search an earth machine by discarding a card and banishing it from the graveyard, which is pretty crazy. So any other opening thoughts on the card?
The synergy with
Go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
The synergy with Regulus is already something that I can definitely appreciate, and the fact that it makes you like so much better in like just beat stick open game state situation. Simplified game state situations is also really nice, because imagine if you don't have like 20 billion cards to play with, but all you really need is just top deck any Cyber Dragon, break the board, and that's it, that's all, and then you attack for a lot of damage, and your opponents really can't jump over your monsters. Like, it creates like a new, it allows Cyber Dragon to do something that the deck really couldn't do before.
Kind of like a dream card, really, and it's kind of funny too in this format where we have a lot of milling as well. If that, I guess, goes to grave, you could add a theory in a little easier, but and then just the fact that you could just contact fuse everything, not trigger things for the most part. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I know everyone hyped Regulus initially, but I tried it and I was like, this card, as cool as the negate is, it still fell to the same issues that Cyber Dragon has, where you still need pretty much core extender even with your Regulus. Like, it didn't fix the issue we had, it just pushed the ceiling higher while leaving our floor still very low, kind of where it was already.
I couldn't agree more. What you said is like literally just on point. Like the floor of the deck unfortunately is quite low, and that's what we have to change with Cyber Dragons. Like, we need more consistency cards so that our worst hands can still play more often, because I think ceiling wise Cyber Dragon was always somewhat able to do some nice things, and obviously with new cards like Regulus and everything, you can have more negates, and you can also negate the effect, which is really good in case your opponent has like duplicates of a powerful card like Branded Fusion, which is, you know, something that you wouldn't be able to achieve with Solemn Judgment. But, you know, like you said, just more consistency cards is exactly what we're asking for.
I mean, especially with that Anaconda ban, that was really sad.
Yeah, that
It was
was
definitely noticeable right after that. Especially like, you know, whether it's a trap build or like I was playing going second, and the Dragoon like really was not only just strong in itself, but you get interrupted a lot going second, and just two bodies leading to Dragoon and pop and burn was usually like, you know, a lot of times game ending. And now we don't have that, and yeah, you're right, Tyrion, it's good, but definitely nowhere close to the level that our deck was. But it's nice to at least have some kind of indirects before now.
So would you guys main Clockwork? Or I know initially, like the Cyber Dragon community, everyone's like, oh, you have to main 3. I've seen some people talk about siding it. I don't feel like there's many situations where you would warrant siding it in. I could see siding it out more than anything if it's like really like something to that degree. Like, I don't think versus Flunder you would be able to use it because they get banished when they leave the field. So you wouldn't be able to meet the requirement to summon, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be a matchup where you would side it out. But like, for the most part, I just feel like it's either a main or not card. I don't think it's necessarily side deck worthy.
Yeah, I mean, just what you said, but I would main deck 3 Clockwork Knight as well as 3 Rivalry of Warlords, because it pretty much does like the same thing as Rivalry Zombie World Luck. So, like Rivalry is already a card that I used to play in Cyber Dragons, in quite a few formats, like Gookie format, for example. Like I can break the board going second, like the full extra link and Gumblar for 4 just by going any Cyber Dragon, contact fuse, set Rivalry, on your standby phase, flip it, and then you only have one monster on the field. And I just win with a 3600 beat stick. So, Rivalry Clockwork Knight is very, very similar.
Yeah, agree. I think it's just a card that you would main or not play it at all. It's just really basic kind of like siding concept as well, right? You wouldn't just, I guess, side out a certain copy that you would typically main. I mean, it's a little different, depends on the format, but yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like this is the one that's probably going to be the most controversial, and all three of our opinions might even be different on. Machine Dupe and Cyber Dragon and Clockwork, ratios that you guys think would be best, whether you play Clockwork and Dupe, whether you play multiple Cyber Dragons with Clockwork, without Dupe, things like that. Personally, I was testing 2 Cyber Dragon, but no Machine Dupe, because I feel like you don't really brick on the OG Cyber Dragon that much at 2, and with Clockwork, the free summon was nice. But like with Dupe and Clockwork, again, going back to they require the little Cyber Dragons to do anything anyway, and reducing. I don't want to play 15 cards that require the same 3 cards. So that's, I mean, I've gone away from Dupe. Yacine created no Dupe, and I know James has success with Dupe, so I felt like this was going to be the fun question, where all of our opinions might be a little bit different on those ratios there.
Yacine, you want to start us off?
Hey, you could go first. I went first last time.
Okay,
Taking
I mean,
turns.
me personally, I think I also want to just start without Dupe, at least at the first iteration of the list. I think it sort of makes sense. I mean, I guess you could still argue. It depends on the size of your list as well. Maybe you still play Machine Dupe, and it's sort of like, if you have like the Dupe variant, the Dupe line of play, then you do that. If you have Clockwork, you do that play. But yeah, sometimes it might just be up to the hand. But I think the trap list actually, Yacine, with Clockwork would might actually be the most optimal as well, with that playstyle.
Yeah, so the thing is, Clockwork Knight and Machine Dupe are just like inherently anti-synergy. I don't even know if that's a word, but they don't really synergize with each other because, like, ironically, boosting your own monsters is like really sus. Like, you don't even want that
They
sometimes.
should have just kept the reduced attack of the opponent's part, not the game part. I was like, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, reduced by 1,000. Yeah, that could have been nice. And like, yeah, I mean, if you draw like Cyber Dragon, Clockwork Knight, and then Core and Machine Dupe, you're like, I have to go Core Machine Dupe before I activate Clockwork Knight, but like, I still have to go Clockwork Knight to break the board. So it's like, you have to like semi-commit to like what you're trying to do, and my philosophy is just like, nah, try to fully commit on something where there's no conflicting at all. Just like how when you're playing Bisted monsters, you're also not really trying to play, the Kashtira Fenrir. Like you don't want to play a bunch of cards that just don't work at all with each other. So, I guess that's just one argument, but Machine Dupe is a card that just doesn't fix, again, the consistency issues of Cyber Dragon, and you still don't break boards through a bunch of negates because of it. Clockwork Knight, on the other hand, is a different story. So I would play 3 Clockwork Knight before I would play a single copy of Machine Dupe any day of the week. However, John, you did something very relevant. You said 2 Cyber Dragon with no Machine Dupe. This is the one thing that I will actually be very open to do, because Cyber Dragon with Clockwork Knight is actually very nice. You want to be able to sometimes, contact fuse before you use your normal summon, so that when you go normal core effect, it goes through. Because your opponent lost like every negate off of just use special summoning Cyber Dragon and using Clockwork Knight.
Right, it kind of semi brings back that Master Rule 4 threat of Mega Fleet. I mean, it takes 2 cards and it's a little more situational, but kind of almost fits that gap that we had before.
Yeah, I agree. I was also thinking of 2 Cyber Dragons because just trying one it initially, it was sort of it just felt bad. I'm like, oh man, I want to have a Cyber Dragon in like opening hand with Clockwork. The other question though is, would you also play Dark Ruler on top of Clockwork in the main? Just because Clockwork Knight, if it resolves, yeah, that's great. You don't need Dark Ruler, but realistically, they probably have like a Barona or like some kind of Omni Negate. So I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to try it out, because I mean, personally, I've been very vocal about I don't think Cyber Dragon should focus on OTKing anymore, and that you can play, I don't want to say grind it out with these decks, but grind it out with these decks, I guess, for lack of better terms. I mean, head to head, they're gonna do better. That's why they're meta and we're rogue. But I think Cyber Dragon can grind better than most people give it credit for if they actually learn how to do it and don't just try to OTK all the time. So I definitely think that Dark Ruler could see some play with it. And then it's kind of like Dark Ruler your opponent and then make Zeus to board wipe them, but you're not making Zeus to board wipe them at that point. So that's kind of my thought, I guess, there.
Yeah, again, I agree with like all of your points. So like Dark Ruler, I would play it in a format where it is good. Like not too long ago, we've had that format actually, where like Dark Ruler was like main decked as 3 of in like everyone's deck, and people didn't play hand traps. Now, not that long after, people have swapped. Like they removed Dark Ruler, they started playing hand traps. You can't really it's really seasonal. You can't always play this, like Dark Ruler and expect it to do well. Really depends on if people are actually playing into it. But if people are not making Omni Negates and they're only making like Monster Negates or something, then I really don't care. I'm just gonna now play Dark Ruler and just Clockwork Knight for game.
Right. Does that answer your question, James?
Yeah, no, that's good.
I was
I guess we should also mention that Super Poly might be kind of funny as well with Clockwork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it so that it's like an interruption actually.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to just fortress right away. There's other things that you'll be able to do once you make their boards all machines. And also, I think a lot of people are going to make the mistake of, I play Clockwork, I board wipe you when they don't need to, and then if they don't win soon enough, they're going to run out of their Fortress Dragons. Like, I don't think you always need to Fortress Dragon, and you just got to be smart about, like, if you're playing 2 or 3 and just use them like when it actually makes sense to, don't just make it because you can, because I think people are going to fall behind that way, 'cause all of a sudden they die to an Ash Blossom in hand, and now they don't have Fortress Dragon for the follow-up, or they can't out their opponent's board at that point or something, all because they shotgunned it too early.
I just realized what would be really funny is when you like Therian, equip it with Cyber Dragon. There's probably a lot of players that don't know that you can still contact using the equip. So that might get a lot of players off guard.
Judge.
Although it's gonna be a
Just
nightmare.
been
I'm gonna call a judge on you, but yeah.
Yacine, also, you mentioned Rivalry as a card that works well with it. Have either of you thought of or tested other cards that might have some synergy people hadn't thought of?
Well, back in 2018, I played Gozen Match in YCS Columbus. So I played Rivalry and Gozen Match in Cyber Dragon. The Gozen Match was worse because you have lights and darks, but Rivalry was just like perfect. So 0 conflicting.
Yeah, I kind of only focused on Rivalry at this point.
I was gonna say,
No, actually, to answer your question, John, to be a little broader, I tested some interesting rank 8 monsters to play in tandem with Clockwork Knight, allowing me to make Fortress very easy. So sometimes I have like 2 Sidras. I contact fuse like every monster on my opponent's field except 1, and then with the other Sidra, like the other one. So I have double Fortress, and then I can make like Zombie Stein or whatever else I can do. So I can make like other negates. So
Right.
sometimes my end boards, if I couldn't OTK, were like Regulus, Zombie Stein, and then Overflow, some other things. Pretty cool. You really don't need Infinity at all.
Yeah, I actually like that. Instead of just straight up board wiping them, you actually board wipe them and then put up a disruption, as opposed to just a vanilla fortress with whatever attack. But as I say, I wondered what your guys' thoughts were. I was testing it as kind of like a Saki one of, and in tier limit format, it's probably a bit redundant, but I was playing a Foolish Burial Goods just to send that Clockwork to grave to search out the Regulus right away, and I mean, I haven't tested it enough to get a definitive if I like it or not, but I think that's a card that it's got some synergy. I don't know yet if it's going to be worth that Saki spot or not, but
Yeah, I mean, I think the Therian adding effect is more of like it's kind of nice that it's there, but it's not really like an amazing effect because you still also have to discard a card. I mean, if it's hers, sure, that's what we always say when it comes to any card that discards. Like, oh yeah, that's nice, but like we already have the field spell, and realistically, tiers are milling our deck for us, so it'll probably get there anyways at some point if you're playing 3 copies.
right, this format's
Yeah.
not needed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, what James said was like on point. I mean, I wouldn't play a card just to send a card that, you know, if I draw it and it gets negated, I have that purpose anyways. So it's like, as you said, like it adds more redundancy that doesn't necessarily fix too many issues. And like, I don't even play Foolish Goods in tier elements, so that just gives you an idea, because there are a bunch of cards that you can send and they get nice effects, but I'm gonna mail them anyway, so...
Yeah. We have a Guido and Kelbeck now. We don't need... we don't need
James, you mentioned the field spell, Discoliseum, I'm assuming is where you meant.
Yeah.
Are you guys considering playing that in tandem with Clockwork? Or, because I tested it initially with it, and right now I'm currently testing without it. Curious where you guys are landing on if you're going to play it at all or whatnot. Because obviously it's another good way to search out your Regulus there, and the protection and the recursion and things like that.
I mean, me personally, yeah, I was playing with the field spell. I mean, the battle protection's nice, but I do like the recursion of the Regulus. Otherwise, Regulus just becomes just like a one-off thing. Just negates once and it's just gone. So the recursion is definitely nice to have.
Yeah, so I'd either play just 3 Clockwork Knight, 1 Regulus, no field spell, or I would do like 3 Clockwork Knight, obviously, with 2 Regulus and then 1 field spell. Because the thing is, if I play the field spell, I can't play only 1 Regulus. Otherwise,
Right.
it doesn't. It's not optimal. And I don't want to play like too many Reguluses, because it's already somewhat way easier to search now than it was before. And again, it doesn't really get anything started for you. Like if we got more like good juice cards that were like semi 1-card combos or something, then sure, I'd be open to playing like more, but
Like, imagine if all we got was just like our Meow Meow, basically. Like, it just takes a Cyber Dragon monster. It doesn't have to be named Cyber Dragon, doesn't have to be a dupe target, but it searches a Cyber Spell or Trap or something, just so Next or Hertz, Fear, any of them can actually get the ball rolling, as opposed to a random summon. Like, they're not full combo, but they're all at least, you know, get you into your spells and get you moving or such. But
yeah, Cyber Link one is exactly what we need.
so
Or any archetype, really.
right, and I mean,
Usually how they get banned or
Yeah,
limited.
for any art, that's true. Yeah,
but
that's true.
well, except for Invoked, they can have 1-card Macabas. Give us a 1-card Infinity. That is way too broken in 2022. So yeah, I didn't have a whole lot else about it. I think we covered Clockwork pretty well. If you guys had any closing thoughts on it.
No, I'm just excited that it's finally coming out next week at the time of this, at the time of recording, and I think, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of a bone, but hopefully we get more support, direct support in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, direct support would definitely help. Like things that make the deck more cohesive, not like indirect support with like one-offs. I'm getting tired of this, man.
But yeah, well, thank you both for stopping in, and thanks to everyone for watching. If you haven't already heard of them before, I'll put links for both these guys down below, but always go show some love to Yacine and James. They both work very hard at what they do, and until next time, guys, thanks for watching.